Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast alongside Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. This one, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Level, no easy way to dive into this. Full transparency to everyone out there. We're recording this. It hadn't even been 24 hours since Texas Tech's loss. In the Elite Eight. So this is still very fresh with us. I know everybody's kind of getting through this one together, but man, that was we use the term a lot, gut wrenching or heartbreak or all those sorts of things in the world of sports. But that one, you can throw whatever adjective, adverb in you want to describe it. It was tough. And I think because level, we've seen this before in a national championship game setting, but where you're right there, you're that close, and you have that feeling of oh my goodness, this is real. And Texas Tech on the cusp of getting to another Final Four, but some self-inflicted stuff, but also some heroics on the other side is why we don't get to hang out in San Antonio.
Yeah, like my voice is not cooperating really. I'm just mentally exhausted.
Hmm.
Nobody's been home for about a month, and it's just been a hell of a journey, and I wasn't ready for it to end. Nobody was ready for it to end, and at some point it does, and you hope that you're the last team standing, but that's just extremely difficult to get to that point, and it just gets harder as you go, and you're playing with big time or against big time
Hmm.
teams
Yeah.
and big time players and all this stuff, and yeah, I'm still processing just San Francisco in general. I guess if we want to be frank, just because these were both games were
Yeah.
crazy for different reasons. I felt like that you played good cop one game and you played the bad cop the other game.
Yeah.
But it's just it's really difficult to get this far, and it's supposed to hurt when you get this far and you come up short. And yeah, you can have the conversation. Well, was it have been better if we man, if you'd have just gotten blown out, I could have processed that in my mind so much easier, or and I get that sentiment. Instead, you played well. You looked like the better team. But this is exactly what Arkansas was saying. This is what Arkansas was saying on Thursday night. Like you dominated a lot of the game, and like what happened? Like palms up. Like what just
Yeah.
and this is you just you switch roles, unfortunately, and you can get into the better team didn't win discussion, and some people have, but I just wish I knew what life looked like if
Hmm.
you hit one of those threes or one of those front end of one and ones
Yep.
just to bust it up,
Yeah.
just to alter the score, the momentum or something. But it didn't happen, and then yet for all the flopping that Walter Clayton did and all that, he made some incredibly tough shots.
He did.
And I mean that's an Iona basketball player that is gone to Florida and turned himself into one of the best guards in the country. I don't mind telling you, after watching them up close, watching their Coach Coed over there, Coach Title IX over there whining
Hmm.
and complaining about everything.
Oof.
It's a very talented team. They are a problem to match up against.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of unlikable parts there for me, and maybe I'm clearly biased, and that's fine. But I yeah, watching him whine and complain and watching Clayton flop around and I guess almost like get these reputation calls. I'm like, who the hell are you, dude? Like you came from Iona, you play for Florida, who cares? Why do you get some reputation calls for falling down when you weren't even touched? And that bothered me, but again, they did more with their opportunities than you did with yours, and that's what sums up this game. That's what was frustrating, but I won't be pleased to see Florida do anything past past what the deal. I'll be hoping for their demise. Again, that doesn't matter. But hey, man, they made plays and you didn't, and
That's what the tournament is,
I
man.
guess I yeah, and I just want is sour as you feel, or is devastated as you may feel,
Yeah.
or I'm trying to phrase it correctly, but it's yeah, I try to live this way when you go through these experiences, but it's like don't be or be thankful that it happened. Don't be sad that it's over kind of mentality because there's so many teams that would have loved to have had a crack at Florida,
Sure.
in San Francisco for the right to go to San Antonio, and
Yeah.
you earned that right, and you did a lot with it. You just came up a bit short,
Yeah,
and
we're not going to sit here and be like so many those Arkansas people after the Tech game that are yeah, I mean, I'm sure people heard it, but the griping and complaining, the saying we're a better team that lost this that it's you got beat in the tournament, and we talked about it before this whole thing started, Level, but we talked about in the tournament it comes down to a lot of times guard play, and they were able to get some good guard play down the stretch, and just making shots in big moments. And that's the best teams in the tournament generally make big shots in big moments. And that's exactly what Florida does there. Tech's unable to after you had already done it in previous moments in this tournament. So I mean, you've hit big shots to get to where you were. Darian Williams hits obviously huge ones against Arkansas in what was a pretty amazing game there. But um, yeah, I think it's hard when you're so fresh off of it to appreciate it. But I think most Tech fans will appreciate this run when you get a little separated from it.
yeah, pick seventh in your league, and then you end up in the Elite Eight, and you will hang a banner for that.
Yeah,
Anything Sweet 16 or on, like you celebrate it, and you should. This tournament is just again, it continues to be just like
yeah,
no other sporting event out there, which I think Grant even said this in San Francisco during one of the press availabilities. He's like, football's finally figured that out, that the one and done scenario and like this tournament format, but it's just so special. And hey man, Thursday night in San Francisco, March gave you. It gave you the highest of highs. It gave you these memories that
sure
no
did.
one can ever take away. It gave you one of the best comebacks in the tournament's history. It gave you one of the best wins in your program history, if we're being honest.
Yeah,
That you just haven't ever gotten this far very much.
three
And
times.
and
Yep.
and, and to win it that way, and all the things, I think, yeah, you're putting that way up there. You just are. And then to just come up a bit short against Florida and to be able to taste it a little bit and be like, man, this tastes pretty good. Can I have another bite? And then they took it away from you. So it's just, but that's March, man. It giveth, it taketh, and it again, it's supposed to hurt when you get this far and you come up short. It's supposed to sting. It's supposed to linger.
Yeah,
But that's why it's worth emotionally invest into. And I'll say this, man, Woodman, it is. Grant says it, Joey says it. Your fan base is different. And what I'll say about that is like when I you get to do what I do, I got to be at this hotel and there's just this buzz around this hotel like there was when we got back to the hotel Thursday night or Friday
Hmm.
morning, I guess it would be. And they're just it's a madhouse.
Yeah.
And it just stays a buzz until you depart for the game on a Saturday. It's just like there's just activity, there's a buzz. And your fans show up in San Francisco. And then and this is just why Lubbock is different, man. Is you roll into the buses pull up to the Womble about 2:30 on Sunday morning. Everybody's tired. Everybody, and there's probably, I don't know, 75 to 100 people standing out there with signs and just clapping and cheering and basically saying thank you.
Hmm.
It like it's almost like an emotional experience, like unbelievable. I mean, like go to bed, people, but they didn't want to go to bed. They
Yeah.
just wanted to say thank you and that's I just think that needs to be said because that this place is different, and I'm and you are too. But we're honored to be a part of
Sure.
it and
Absolutely.
and and do it that way. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
I said that about your fans because they deeply care, and I know a lot of them are hurting, but that's what makes this stuff fun.
It is.
Because when you emotionally invest, Thursday night should be elation, and you
Yeah.
should be like feeling no pain. And then Saturday, it's supposed to hurt when you emotionally invest. It's supposed to sting and linger, as we talked about. But you can't have one without the other, unfortunately. And
Yeah.
okay, I'll quit rambling.
No,
But
you're
I
good.
just,
I mean, I'm
yeah,
going to build off the emotional part that you're talking about, Level, because I think what makes it sting even more, obviously, we as Red Raider fans root for the double T, but there's certain teams you just fall in love with. I mean, there are certain teams, right, that you
yes,
just fall in love with these guys. And I think obviously the 2019 team, I think there's you get to know some of the personalities about them. There's the the guys like Chance McMillan that just give their all, like we see with that uh, on Saturday nights, and then this group, and we've heard Grant McCaslin talk about this so much, but how much they just love each other and mesh together. You can see that on and off the court, and I think that's what makes a loss like this and the way you lose sting because you don't know in today's world of college basketball, we know some are not back. Like the 1 year you get with Elijah Hawkins or the 2 years you get with Chance McMillan, you know some of those are final. And then we don't know some other guys too, and we'll talk about that in coming weeks. And I know we've got a lot of questions from who's back, who's not, but you, the finality of it all with a team that you've just grown to love over an entire season and some players over multiple seasons is what man, that's what makes it sting even more.
yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning Chance because I just remember when I was in Pittsburgh last year. And we had dealt with all of that Warren Washington foot issue for what felt like the last month of the season. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
will he, won't he, at what level? I feel like we were reliving it all over again
yeah,
with
yeah.
various players with your team, and then specifically Chance most recently. But Warren Washington, you're big, and you only had really one of them.
One.
He had dealt with that foot injury, and it was painful and you just needed him to really be able to do any damage, whatsoever. And he had come back late in the year and he was able to play against NC State in the tournament, which I was thankful for. But I just remember going to back to the hotel and you lose, and I saw his dad, and his dad watches, this podcast, and he watched a lot of other things that I do, and he just said, he goes, Mr. Level. I said, Mr. Washington, and he said, hey, thank you for everything. And I said, oh, you don't need to be thanking me for anything, man. It's a pleasure. But I said, I think a lot of your son, and I was glad to see him play. And he said, yes, sir. We've been praying because I'm thankful he got to finish on his feet in
Yeah.
uniform tonight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought about that, like, hey, you did depart this tournament, but Chance McMillan got to go out on his shield, if you will, a
Yeah.
bit, in that he got to do it in uniform. He got to do it playing pretty damn well,
Yeah.
and we don't ever have to have that in our back pocket of going, man, I wonder what if, because I mean this looked like a normal game for him.
Yeah. I was surprised at
Shockingly,
it. Yeah.
shockingly. I thought he would give you a few minutes. I didn't know what that would look like. He's taking bumps. He's getting hit. He's going. I mean, he's
Yeah.
scoring. He's running around like a crazy person. I mean, Will Richard was chasing him all over the damn place. And I mean, there was only one time where I saw him kind of wince. There was only another time where he's like, Coach, I need a break. And that, but other than that, this was a normal game. Other than he didn't start, and so for that, I am thankful for
Same here. Yep.
him and all the stuff. He got to finish on his feet and in uniform, like Mr. Washington said the year previously. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep. Yeah, I was very happy to see that because it would have been hard to swallow for him otherwise, if he wasn't able to at least give it a go in that final game for the
Yeah.
Red Raiders. Let's get to a couple of questions regarding the actual game itself. One of them asks, this one comes from Eric. It says, Level, can you help explain how they can change the basket interference when they already looked at it once?
Yeah. I did never get that part of the explanation. We were told by the officials on the reasoning that it was reversed, but like I mean, like, are you trying really hard to, like, I'm that was a pivotal point in this game, and I can't
Sure
remember
was.
exactly how many minutes were left, but I think you're up 50 to 46 at the time. If memory
Hmm.
serves, it's 50 to
And
46.
they scored 5 points on the possession.
They
Yeah.
what they call a phantom foul on Elijah Hawkins.
Yep.
Never touched him. And that, I don't mind saying, excuse my language or my phrasing here, but that pisses me off.
Yeah.
Like, these dudes have to be better. And like, if you're going to go start reviewing stuff, if a kid falls down, they used to do the flop warning. And at
Yeah.
this level, on this stage, that's some BS, man.
Yeah.
It's a phantom call. I hate that this alters the game. But again, they give the kid the free throws. He knocks up and or steps up and knocks down all three of them.
Yep.
And then they in the simultaneously they also like, hey, after further review, we've announced. So they stated, which I don't think the TV folks, especially the rules official on TV, agreed with this sentiment. There
No,
was
Gene's territory did not agree with this
yeah,
because
and I had everybody to my left that was on the Westwood One call. We're all talking about it, and we all none of us agreed with it because. And so, was this applied incorrectly? Was this? They're saying, and the way it was explained, you go to dunk it, you hang on the rim. The rim is bent and bent down or whatever, and the ball pops up in the air. Well, then at some point, you let go of the rim, and the rim is normal again, and then the ball drops in. But that's suggesting to me that you can just go up at any possession when somebody shoots it, hang on the rim, and as long as the ball goes in when the rim, that's the most ludicrous. Was the basket shaking? I mean,
it
it's just
absolutely was shaking. You can see it
yeah,
on the
and it and
replay,
it
and that's
yeah, and what you're asking about is actually not even what I'm talking about. It's
no.
like, do you get to review it multiple times? I mean, did this come from on high? Like,
That's what it
hey,
seems like, right? Because
yeah,
because
yeah,
they had made their decision. They had already gone to the monitor. The three officials on the court had made
yeah.
their decision. They changed it there, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes later or later than that, they're like, "Oh, by the way, we just got a call from the NCAA office saying we want Florida to win this basketball
Well,
game." And I'm being surly, obviously,
uh,
but seriously, what else is the explanation on something like that?
but yeah, and yet you take that punch.
Yeah.
You take that punch and then you just like you throw a whole bunch of uppercuts after that
Sure.
and you're just
Yeah.
kicking their ass. I mean, you're just spoon feeding it to them, to which they had no answer. And from that point, they go and they start fouling you on purpose,
Hmm.
to put you on the line because they can't stop you on defense in those one-on-one post ISOs. And
Yeah.
yet, and then it was back-to-back possessions, and yet you couldn't hit a front end of a one-and-one, and
Yeah.
that's where it just
It hurt.
that's the hard part to swallow is like their little strategy. It worked, unfortunately. But yeah, that whole sequence, because I thought you're up 50-46, and then you don't even do nothing wrong. You don't
True.
do anything,
True. Yep.
and next time you get the ball, it's 51-50, and you're like, what just happened? But to Grant's team's credit, they took that and they punched right back and like in some almost some knockout blows, but
Yeah.
that's the key word there is almost.
Which I'm so tired of the whole basket interference thing. Like this is a side note level. They've got to change the way that is reviewed in general. Because how many times have we seen them call a basket interference and then then someone gets a rebound off of it, and then you can go back to a monitor and change the call 5 minutes
Yeah.
later, and that rebound doesn't actually happen, even though you would have had a chance at an off a second chance or whatever. Anyway, they need to change that in college basketball. But ER says this is from Twitter. Says level, why do we rush the last 2 minutes? I felt like we rushed the free throws and the shooting, especially poetically in the last three attempts. We had 11 seconds left to hit that.
You had clean looks.
Yep.
This is the style that had gotten you to the Elite Eight. You're not changing, and whether I mean you can question everything. Use a timeout, not use a timeout. I thought at some point Florida would foul while up three and not even give you a look as far as rushing the three. But Elijah Hawkins darts down the sideline and
Yeah.
throws a dime to Darion Williams, and this is the shot that he has made many times this year. Houston, Arkansas
Mhm.
hit one under 2 or 3 minutes in Lawrence, Kansas. It just didn't go in. And I mean, I'd take that look and the timing that you
Sure.
got it in 10 out
Absolutely.
of 10 times. So the free throws or the unforced errors are the ones that just that's what stings the most because I felt really bad for JT and D5 because they were the only two that missed a free throw all night.
Yeah.
And it was D5 that was the only miss was the front end of a one-on-one, and JT missed all of his free throws. It just the last one that he misses is the one that stings. But you're 7 of 13, but five of those six misses is from JT, and one of them is from D5. Everybody else made all of theirs,
Yeah.
but it's the context, and it
Hmm.
was the timing. And if you just hit one, you just wonder what how that would have altered things, and that's what. But you're also not to this point without those two kids.
Oh, of course.
Like it's
Yeah.
hard to point and go,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
because I mean, what did they combined for 43 points in the game? They're just and I think Grant even said, were they did tired legs, were they just was fatigue an issue for them both because you're just leaning on them because let's see here. Yeah, 31 and 32 minutes, but you had leaned on these two kids really in this tournament and in Kansas City, you had leaned on them, and so yeah, I was just thinking like I was in Kansas City for 5 days, then I went to Wichita for 5 days, then I went to San Francisco. I had to reintroduce myself to my wife and child. It feels like I mean, yeah, it's like because when I do these with you, it's like when I'm just barely dipping in back at home,
Right.
and then like I got the suitcase like halfway unpacked, but not really, and getting ready to throw more stuff in there. It's just
Yeah, I bet
it's
Mrs.
whole.
Level doesn't like me very much because I steal you away right after you get home sometimes. But
Mrs. Lowell doesn't like me a lot of the time too. So yeah, you're a good company. I'm
okay,
kidding.
good.
I have a sweet, very understanding
Yes,
wife.
she's fantastic.
Um, but it's just like this whole thing's just been a blur, and it for it to come down to a couple of missed free throws from two of your best players,
Yeah,
that's the part that just stings. But it's yeah, sports, man, and in San Francisco, it gave you both sides of the coin.
it did. It did.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's how she goes, unfortunately. Level.
yeah.
Here's an interesting one. It's a little different. It says level. I'm trying to figure out who to root for the rest of the tournament. I want the Big 12 to do well, but I don't want Houston to win. I definitely don't want the SEC to win. So does that leave me rooting for Duke?
Well, so in the way that because you were I'm gonna just suggest that you were likely gonna face Auburn in the semifinal and the Final Four had you advanced.
Possibly. Yeah.
I think Auburn beats Michigan State. So
Yeah.
for those that we're taping this before those
Right.
Sunday games are being played, um, but you could be staring at an SEC only semifinal between Florida and Auburn,
Yeah.
which would guarantee one of those teams in the and then. I mean, I don't dislike Houston at all. I mean, I could see where you don't want. I think it, you can play the Big 12 card. You can say, "Oh, this is really bad for us." Houston's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I don't. It doesn't. And you lost a recruit to them before this season started in Kingston Flemings. You were head to head directly with them on a stud guard. I just think that they Kelvin Sampson had a few more years there and a bit more established, and I think that's what this young man's dad just kind of went toward, and you missed out. But I don't have a hard time rooting for Houston. I love Malik Wilson. He still loved his time here. He said hello to me in Wichita, Kansas,
Sure.
congratulated us on getting to go to San Francisco, and I dislike some Houston sometimes, but I also respect the heck out of them.
It's hard not to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're damn good at what they do. They've earned it the old-fashioned way. They have done the unexpected and come from the American Athletic Conference, and they've come in and they've run the Big 12. They have runned it. It ain't Kansas's league, anymore. It's not anybody else's league. This is Houston's league right now until somebody does something about it. And that's just the facts. I think Grant is like one of the few programs that has made it very interesting, but even said that, you're 1-3 for all we'll talk about you get them you're 1-3 against them.
Yeah.
I mean, and two of those were blowouts, on their side of it, and your one win was in overtime.
Hmm.
Wrapping all that up, I don't have no problem rooting for Houston, whether you want to play the Big 12 card or what, but also if you don't want that to see that happen, I totally get that too. I think Duke is the best team left. I think Duke is going to be the biggest problem for everybody. They have the most upside. They also, and I think most people don't realize this, they're also the biggest team left, like, size wise. And I don't think people like grasp that part. Even without Cooper Flag, when they were trying to play the end of the ACC tournament or the beginning of the NCAA, if he wasn't going to play, they have multiple draft picks.
Yeah.
Like still, and Cooper Flag he's the I think the unquestioned top pick if he
Ooh.
does indeed leave. So, but I guess what I'm saying is Houston and Duke could end up playing in a semifinal game. It could be a extremely difficult ticket, a loaded Final Four with a lot
Hmm.
of blue blood types, and you got proximity with Houston. And man, I would have loved to have been a part of that deal.
Yeah.
Would have been I mean, as President Skuvanik said to me late Saturday night in San Francisco, I said, "Can you imagine
Mm.
what that would have been for our university and our fan base had you?" He said, "Chris, heaven. It would have been heaven." And yeah, I mean, I think that sums it up well.
Yeah. I could just hear it
Because
go.
I've been to two Final Fours in San Antonio. That city was built to host that event.
Yeah.
I mean, Atlanta, been to one in Atlanta, been to one in Minneapolis, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, and they're okay, but the two that I've been to in San Antonio, it's tailor made for that event. It just absolutely is. So anyway,
Yeah. I mean, it would have been. And I think again, we keep talking about the pains, the stinging. That's also what stings is so many people would have been able to make that trip. So many people from Dallas or Lubbock or Houston or that live in San Antonio, Red Raiders all over the state would have been able to show up for that thing, and it would have been.
Oh, I mean,
I know that makes it
it,
the
uh,
gut sink in the gut
yeah.
even more. Just
It was just, and that's you're right. I don't think I feel quite this way if like the Final Four is in
no,
Indianapolis, or if
sure,
it's in Atlanta, or if it's in Phoenix, or if it's in, I don't know, whatever, these other cities. But I mean, yeah, I'm reliving this all over again. But
I
like
know.
San Antonio, I mean,
I'm
it's
making you go back through
just
the five stages of grief again. So
it was just right there.
it was,
Um,
and no team has gotten to play in their home state in the Final Four since. Do you know that? Do you know the stat on that one? 2010, the Butler Bulldogs back in
yeah,
Indianapolis in
I'm
2010.
aware. I'm aware. Yeah, and Houston may
Houston
in
probably
fact
will
get
get to
to.
break that.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll see.
And I know we're running out of time a little bit, and
Yeah,
I'll just get into this briefly. I know a lot of people want to know
sure.
what's next, and this is what I guess I'm prepared to say. Like very fresh, and we'll get into this a lot more next week. But be patient, and this is very difficult.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
I have a hard time with it myself, but nobody knew the name of Elijah Hawkins or JT Toppin, until mid to late May, and then even in early June and all that. And here we are on the cusp of the 1st of April. Some of this could play out as far as your roster. Some of this could play out fairly quickly based on house settlement stuff. There's some sentiment that you may have more time than you think, but then you've got some guys that would probably prefer to go through the NBA process. This is going to be very confusing and tricky, and everybody's going to want answers right now, and I just don't know how quickly some of it will play out. And it's tricky for all involved, right? If you're Grant, if you're Kellen Buffington, if you're the donors, it's like, okay, we're prepared to offer you this NIL deal. Well, I'm not necessarily prepared to take it yet because I want to go through the process. Well, we need to know. Well, I'm not ready to let you know. Okay, well, what now? That's kind of where you're at
Right.
with guys like JT and D5. Christian Anderson is a focal point. Kevin Overton is a focal point. Federico. Then you need to go portaling. What do you need? I don't know what I need yet. I mean, you see what I'm saying? I mean,
Oh,
there's a
absolutely.
lot going on here,
Yeah.
and I think that you need you kind of need a domino to fall, and I don't know when or who that will be. And there's so I just think that we need to let some days, some hours, a week pass, just to kind of see what
Yeah.
this looks like. It would help you in some ways if people would be willing to make quick decisions. Hey, we need to know right now. I'm not ready to do that. Okay, then we're going to move on. I mean, are you willing to do that with
Right.
like D5 or JT? Because I do think I will say this to our listeners here, Woodman. I would not, and I'm going to say this at the very end of this show, and hopefully you listen to the very end. I'm not going to rule out. I'm going to go back on something I said to you
Yeah. I remember.
3 weeks ago. I think there's a lot more hope that one or both of these guys could come back than ever before. And while there's no guarantees, and it's this tricky game to play.
Hmm.
It's going to require. This is a business decision. So, how much business do you want to get involved with? Is I
Sure.
guess to
Sure.
phrase it correctly, like it's going to require substantial business, but
Some
also
zeros. Yeah.
it's going to take you to be willing to give them space and time, knowing that. you could be left holding the bag. Like, okay, I've got all this business, but now I don't have anybody, to give it to. And
Yeah.
like, we've missed out on, you see what I mean? So
Oh yeah,
this is,
absolutely.
so but I don't rule either one of them out. And again, people may say that's crazy. People may be looking for reasons to hope. I am prepared to, with every fiber of my being, say to you, there's no guarantees with any of this right now. And I
Yeah.
think there will be some decisions that are made in the coming hours, days, weeks, and I would just ask for patience.
And it is a business decision level, but you got to know also that emotions factor in, and being that close to a Final Four probably does factor into the emotional side of, man, what if we did this again? What if we put this back together and made one more run at it? Obviously, if the numbers are right, and for the business side of things to go as well. But
Well, they have to be, but otherwise it just doesn't
sure,
make
of
sense. I
course,
mean,
of
and
course,
that's the world we're living in right now.
it is. It is.
Yeah. So
But level, we had a lot of questions about the roster and that sort of thing, and we will get into those in over coming weeks and days and weeks, and there's some football stuff as football had their first scrimmage, so we'll dive into that in coming weeks as well. But hate that the basketball season has come to that abrupt end, as it always does. But enjoyed it all basketball season, and we'll talk again next week.
I've never been a big fan of the word abrupt or just abrupt because abrupt is a startling, but that's the reality of it. Yeah,
It
you're
is.
right.
It is.
Hey, Woodman, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for dealing with me throughout the season and our wonky travel schedule. I'm not necessarily looking forward to decompressing a bit, but yeah, it when it comes to an abrupt end, it's like that's what it is. But thanks to Kentex Roofing, I appreciate everybody listening to this, everybody at Raymar and everything like that. So, anyways, keep hope alive, and we'll keep living that Red Raider life, man. Guns remain all the way up, always.
Yes, sir. That's Chris Level. I'm Choice Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.